Hi, Gators. Mrs. Collins here. It's Friday, March 27th. It's Friday, finally, and we are wrapping up that last day of our virtual spirit day. Today, it was Hawks Day, but also Greg Gator Day. So I have made sure I'm representing CPP Hawks and Greg School Gators. How are you? I've been thinking about you all week. I hope you've been working hard and making your parents proud, doing your reading and your math and making some art and getting outside and being active and maybe making some music. Oh, just so many opportunities and ways to learn from home. I have a book for you today, a special one, staying with our theme. It is Alligator Baby by Robert Munsch, author of Love You Forever, and the illustrator is Michael Marchenko. So I'm going to show you the pictures that go along with this book. Don't know if you're familiar. I'm going to get situated here. One night, Kristen's mother woke up and yelled, "A baby, a baby, I'm having a baby." Kristen's father jumped up, zoomed around the room, got dressed, and grabbed Kristen's mother by the hand. They ran downstairs to the car and drove off really fast. Vroom! Unfortunately, they got lost. They didn't go to the hospital. They went to the zoo. But it was okay. Kristen's mother had a lovely baby. Then they drove home and knocked on their front door. Blam, 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 blam. Kristen opened the door, and there was her mother holding something all wrapped up. "Kristen," she said, "would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. So Kristen lifted up the bottom of the blanket. She saw a long green tail and said, "That's not a people tail." Kristen lifted up the middle of the blanket, saw a green claw and said, "That's not a people claw." Kristen lifted up the top of the blanket, saw a long green face with lots of teeth and said, "That's not a people face. That is not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." Just then, the baby reached up and bit Kristen's mother on the nose. She yelled, "Ah!" Then the baby reached up and bit her father on the nose. He yelled, "Ah!" "That's not a people baby," said Kristen. "That's an alligator baby." "Goodness," said her mother, "we've got the wrong baby." Oh my. So Kristen put the alligator baby into the fish tank. There it is. And her mother and father drove back to the zoo. They came back in an hour and knocked on the door. Blam, 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 blam. Kristen opened the door and her mother said, "Would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. Kristen lifted up the bottom of the blanket, saw a fishy tail, and said, "That's not a people tail." Kristen lifted up the middle of the blanket, saw a flipper, and said, "That's not a people flipper." Kristen lifted up the top of the blanket, saw a face with whiskers, and said, "That's not a people face. That is not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." Just then, the baby reached up with its flipper and flapped her father's face. Whap, 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 whap. He yelled, "Ah! It's a seal baby. We've got the wrong baby." So Kristen put the seal baby in the bathtub, and her mother and father drove back to the zoo. They came back in an hour and knocked on the door. Blam, 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 blam. They said, "Kristen, would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. She lifted up the bottom of the blanket, saw a very hairy leg, and said, "That's not a people leg." She lifted up the middle of the blanket, saw a very hairy arm, and said, "That's not a people arm." She lifted up the top of the blanket, saw a very hairy face, and said, "That's not a people face. That is not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." Then the baby reached up with its feet and grabbed her mother's ear and her father's ear, and they both yelled, "Ah! It's a gorilla baby! We've got the wrong baby!" "Let me do it," said Kristen. So her mother and father put the gorilla baby on the chandelier in the living room, and Kristen went off to the zoo on her bicycle. I wonder if it's a baby Ivan. First, Kristen looked in the snake cage. No people babies. Then Kristen looked in the wombat cage. No people babies. Then Kristen looked in the elephant cage. No people babies. Then she stopped and listened. From far away she heard, "Wah, wah, 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 wah." "That's more like it," said Kristen. She followed the sound. It was coming from the gorilla cage. Kristen looked at the mommy gorilla and said, "Give me my baby brother." The gorilla jumped away and wouldn't give the baby back at all. Then the people baby reached up and bit the gorilla on the nose, and the gorilla yelled, "Ah!" and handed the baby to Kristen. Kristen jumped on her bicycle and pedaled home. Kristen knocked on the door, blam, 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 blam. When her parents, opened the door, she said, "Would you like to see your new baby?" Kristen's mother lifted up the bottom of the blanket and said, "Look, people legs." She lifted up the middle of the blanket and said, "Look, people hands." She lifted up the top of the blanket and said, "Look, a people face." Kristen's mother picked up the baby and gave it a big hug. Her father took the baby and gave it a big hug, and her mother said, "Kristen, Kristen, you got the baby back. Good for you." But what are we going to do with all these other babies? Yelled Kristen's father. "There is a seal baby in the bathtub, and an alligator baby in the fish tank, and a gorilla baby hanging from the chandelier. We should take them back to the zoo." But Kristen looked out the window and said, "I don't think we have to do anything at all." Look who's there. And everything was okay until Kristen's mother had twins. The end. That's the story of Alligator Baby. I hope you enjoyed it this Friday. I hope that you have something special to do this weekend that you're thinking of that's maybe a little different than your schoolwork. I will be posting more videos of Humphrey. We'll continue with the next chapters in Spring According to Humphrey, because it is springtime out there. And Gators, just keep checking in with your teachers. I know that they keep thinking of you. They are emailing your teachers. If you need anything, let us know. Hopefully you're getting your food and your meals and all the exercise and all the things you need to be safe and healthy. Miss you. Take care. Bye.